Hi, Ann. Hope you're doing well. I wanted to go over this again. I don't know what you're doing to embed these. It might be a browser-dependent problem, but I wanted to go over the procedure again real quick. So I'm just going to copy your link here, and then in a new post, I just wanted to remind you that you go to this A here, and you have to embed them in the advanced editor. So you go to this A here to open the advanced editor, and then you get an insert video clip dialog box. Copy your post into there and hit OK, and that will embed the video. So when you make the post to embed the video, you should see this um, HTML script right here where it says, in parentheses video and then hashtag video. So I don't know if that's what you're doing or not. It might be a browser issue, but we can make this work. It's just easier if you embed them. Let's go ahead and take a look at the squat at 55. Good walkout. I'm going to mute the video here, and let's see if we can things a little bit better. That's a good bend over. That's one of the better ones that you've done. You're still leaning into the hole a little bit, but you're getting some depth. You're still leaning into the hole, just a little tiny bit here. So let's break this down. Here you have a real good back angle. Your job is actually to hold this. I'm confident that your legs are strong enough to get this squat out of the hole. The question is your back strong enough to hold the bar while you do it? See, you're continuing to lean well past the point where you should be done bending over. By this point, you should not be bent over anymore. Instead, see, continuing to lean. Instead, it should all be your hips. You should just be lowering your hips, continuing to lean, but you're getting more depth. Now you have to drive your hips, which is not bad there. This is where you should stop bending over, but you kind of keep bending over. And that causes flexion in the lower part of your back, which kind of freaks me out a little bit, right? I don't want you doing that. You're bending over into the hole, and I need you to stop. I need you to keep your back up and just stick your hips back, lower your hips, raise your hips. Now, one thing that I tell people sometimes is kind of a heresy, is maybe you need to stop thinking about bending over. Instead, think more about sending your hips back. You keep your chest up, you keep your back up, and you just send your hips back and down into the hole. But these are definitely better. We still have this major problem with you leaning into the hole. You've got to stop bending over before you're halfway down. You have to stop bending over. Let's take a look at this one, see if things get better with a little more weight. A little bit better, but you've lost your depth a little bit on this one. You need to not look for the bottom. You need to just hit the bottom. Not as bad of a lean that time, and you're definitely using your hip drive. A little bit better, but you're not deep enough. Keep your back up. Stop bending over. Just don't bend over. That's what we're going to do. We're going to try that for the next time. We're going to tell you to just don't bend over. Stick your hips way back. Stick your knees way out, but don't bend over, because you're one of these people. There's about 25% of people. You tell them to bend over, and they just take it too far. Most people, we have trouble getting them to bend over at all. We can't get them to bend over. So we really emphasize telling people to bend over. There's about a quarter of the people that I see where I tell them to bend over and they just take it too far. They just lean way into the hole. And I'm starting to think that you're one of those. So just don't bend over. Just focus on sticking your hips way back, sticking your knees way out, and hitting the bottom with your back up. And we'll see if that helps. Last one. Yeah, I don't want you to dive bomb it either. I want you to, it's a little frustrating to go slow, but going fast won't help. It just means that you're bending over faster. We've got to get the model in place first. Once the model is in place and the form of the squat looks good, then as the weight gets heavier, we can start working on the tempo of the movement and the parts that have to be fast and slow. But for now, it's best to just go slow. Going fast like this with improper form is just going to get you hurt. So let's be careful and proceed carefully, get the form right, and be plenty of time to work on this other stuff. Let's look at your press next. That's a pretty good view of the press, right? So what I'd like is I'd like you to get your elbows bunched together in front of you. I want all this stuff bunched up in front of you. That's going to be the way to do it. That's a good top position on the press. I don't want you breathing out. I want you to take a great big breath here, and I want you to hold it until you get back down to the bottom. So all this time that the bar is going up and locking out, you should be holding your breath. Instead, you're kind of doing kung fu breathing there, right? And that's very natural. That's the way people have been programmed to do it by the fitness industry, but that's not what we want. We want you to hold your breath at the top. This is a very good lockout here. Wrists are a little bit more extended than I want, but you've got excellent shoulder mobility and you've got a good position here at the top, right? So that has already come a long way. Now I want you to get your elbows in front of the bar and I want you to jam them up. I want all this stuff bunched up in front of you, right? So this, I don't want this winging out to the side here. I want this stuff in front, right? I want those elbows in front, sort of jammed up in front of you, sort of a base for the bar. Good top, but again, I don't want you breathing out. So these aren't too bad, Ann. Okay, we got more work to do on these, but these are coming along fine. I feel comfortable progressing these a little bit. And I was really glad to see that you got the microplates coming. All right, let's take a look at ye old deadlift here. See what we see. Last time we looked, these were looking much better. Okay, that time you did not set your back. Let's take a look. I actually sort of set it. See, this back is not bad here. I need you to rotate your chest up at this hinge. This is the back I want, long and sort of concave, right? I want this hinge locked up tight. I want you to raise your chest and set your whole back into extension. And reviewing the videos that I sent you, that's the way to go, is keep looking at that and feeling what I want you to do with your back. But as soon as you start to pull, watch what happens to your back. See, it kind of goes into a little bit of flexion that I don't want. The other thing is you drive your hips up without moving the bar as much. So you've got to bring the bar up out of the hole. Don't just use the push to drive up your hips. You've got to drive up the bar too. Back is not dangerous here. It's just not as fully extended and strong as I want. Chest up, chest up. You think chest up, you set your back hard, and then you drive the earth away from you with your legs. I think you're probably starting with your hips a little bit too low, and the dead giveaway for that is that the moment the bar leaves the floor, your hips are higher than they were on your setup. So that's probably as low as your hips should ever get. And the one thing that seems to work for most people is if your knees are just inside the crook of your elbow, that's probably about right, assuming that the bar is over the middle of the foot. If your hips are too high, which is almost never the case, your knees will be behind your elbows. And if your hips are too low, which is often the case, your knees will be in front of your elbows. So that's a useful barometer in most people. Let's see what happens here. That was actually a little bit better. Your hips didn't start out quite as low that time, so they didn't have to go any higher. Chest up, pushing the earth away from you. That's not bad. These are kind of getting better as the set goes on. Big breath, chest up, pull. That's real good. Nice. All right. So not a bad workout at all. We still have problems with the squat, although it is continuing to improve. I don't want you to get the idea that you're stuck here, right? These things are all getting better. The deadlift and the press are serviceable at this point for us to go ahead and add weight. I am not comfortable adding weight at this juncture to the squat. I'm just not convinced that your back is safe at this point. I did see what you had to say about going to a seminar at Wichita, not to a seminar, but to a camp at Wichita Falls. You can go to a seminar too. Seminar is expensive. Um, and it's an in-depth introduction of the model, it would definitely get you off on the right track. I don't mean at all to discourage you from going to a seminar. If you can afford the time and money to go to a seminar, it's an amazing experience. But you can also go to a squat camp at any of our starting strength gyms in Texas. You're liable to do well. My friend and co-author Andy Baker is in Kingwood. I'm not sure at the moment exactly where you are, but if you go to startingstrength.org, you can find a coach in Texas nearest to you, and either set up a one-time consultation or go to a squat camp. In fact, why don't we just go ahead and look right now and see what the events are that's coming up. So the next squat camp is the only squat camp that's currently been announced is the one in Richmond, Virginia on the 22nd. There are a number of seminars, including one in September in Wichita Falls. And you could certainly go to one of those. But your other option is to go to startingstrength.org and find a coach, and you can look up Texas, and here are our coaches in Texas. Andy Baker in Houston. Austin Baraki is a good guy in San Antonio. He's also a physician. Darren Deaton in Fort Worth, Heidi Kaufman in Amarillo, and so on and so on. Mark Riptoad, Nick Delgadillo, and Step Radford, they're all in Wichita Falls. I can't recommend Andy Baker, Austin Baraki, Darren Deaton enough. These other people, they're all starting strength coaches, so they're all good. Randy Winfrey in Houston is amazing. They're all good. Andy, Austin, Darren, Randy, they're great coaches. If you can get a slot to work with one of them and get them to tune up your squat and your other lifts, that would make life easier for both of us. Or we can continue on the way we are. Your squat will come around. We're making incremental improvements within it, and my suspicion is at some point, it will just click. So anyway, these are your options, and I'm glad that the microplates are coming, and we're going to advance everything but the squat right now, and I'll see you again in a couple of days. Be patient. Things are coming along just fine. Talk to you soon.